But let me continue on this vein, talking about Congress's role as opposed to the judiciary. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce into the record a piece published in Tech Policy Daily called Gorsuch and Tech Policy. And in it, the author, a professor at Boston College Law School, concludes, our justices should be willing to work hard and understand new technologies and think critically about how traditional legal concepts map into cyberspace. He concludes, Judge Gorsuch's record suggests no reason to doubt that he's up to the task. So that makes us all feel better, I'm sure. But let me talk about this in the context of an issue that we talked about yesterday and has been brought up a number of times, Chevron Deference, as it relates to innovation here. I don't want to go back to your views on this. There's a great deal, as I said, of exchanges on this subject. But let me talk about the relation to technology here. If judges defer to policy decisions of executive agencies, as Chevron calls for, those decisions depend largely on the public or the policy preferences of the agencies. Is that not right?
Senator, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I entirely tracked the question.
Well, if agencies, if Congress sets a broad policy and the agencies interpret that and write regulations based on that, and the courts defer to the agency interpretation, then policy depends on the policy preferences of the agencies more than it does Congress in that view, right?
That sounds like a reasonable conclusion.
Well, just as an example, if the Bush administration had a policy on a certain technology, and then the Obama administration came in and changed that policy, whether it's the FCC or the FTC, and then it was changed back when the Trump administration came in, that is the technology community out there is kind of whipsawed back and forth. They can't rely on policy. I think that's why Congress and the courts need to take a hard look at agency deference, and why I think we need to return here in Congress, and this has been discussed over the past couple of days, to legislating on different questions and doing more than we have over the past couple of decades, and giving more instruction to agencies on how to interpret, or giving them less to interpret, put it that way. But I do think that we'll have more consistent policy and policy that the private sector can rely on if Congress has to go through this exercise more than the agencies, because the agencies, it can go back and forth depending on who's in power there. But so I'm just a long way of saying I agree with what seems to be, and I hope I read it correctly, is skepticism of Chevron deference, and that we ought to maybe tip the balance back toward relying on Congress, or the intent of Congress at least. Mr. Chairman,